Imagine hay or wheat as tall as Iowa corn, and corn higher than a small-town city hall. Fortune? There'd be a dozen fortunes in it. I began perspiring. The deal was getting bigger and bigger. It wasn't just a simple matter of cutting in on a good thing. All the angles, which were multiplying at a tremendous rate, had to be covered before I saw Miss Frances again. I daren't miss any bets. I needed a staff of agricultural experts. Anyway, someone who could cover the scientific side. Whatever happened to my freshman chemistry? And a mob of lawyers. You'd have to plug every loophole tight. But here I was without a financial resource. Couldn't hire a ditch digger, much less the high-priced talent I needed. And someone else might get a brainstorm when he saw the lawn and beat me to it. I visioned myself cheated out of my $1,000,000. Yes, a really fast worker, some unethical promoter willing to stoop to devious methods, might pass at any moment and grasp the possibilities, have Miss Frances signed up before I'd even got the deal straight in my mind. How could he miss seeing this lawn? Splendid, magnificent, beautiful. No one would ever call this stuff devil grass. Angel grass would be more appropriate to the implications of such a heavenly green. Millions in it. Simply millions. Say, aren't you the fellow put this stuff on? Half a dozen vacant faces gaped at me, the burdening pump, the caudal hose. Curiosity, interest, imbecile amusement argued in their expression with the respect due the worker of the transformation. It was a sort of look connected with sales resistance of the most obstinate kind. They distracted me from thinking things through. "Miss Dankman's sure looking for you. Says she's gonna sue you." Here was an unfortunate development, an angle to end all angles. Unfavorable publicity. The abortifacient of new enterprises would mean you could hardly give the stuff away. My imagination raced through columns of newsprint in which the metamorphizer was made the butt of reporters' humor. Mrs. Dinkman's ire would have to be placated, bought off. Perhaps I'd better discuss developments with Miss Frances right away, after all. Whatever I decided, it was advisable for me to leave this vicinity. I was in no financial position to soothe Mrs. Dinkman, and it was dubious, in view of her attitude, whether it would be possible to sell any more in the immediate neighborhood. Probably a new territory was the answer to my problem. A few sales would give me both cash in hand and time to think. While I hesitated, Mrs. Dinkman, belligerency dancing like a sparkling aura about her, came out of her garage with a rusty, rattling lawnmower. I'm no authority on garden tools, but this creaking, rickety machine was clearly no match for the lusty growth. The audience felt so too, and there was a stir of sporting interest as they settled down to watch the contest. Determination was implicit in the sharply unnatural lines of her corset, in the firm set of her glasses as she charged into the gently swaying runners. The wheels turned rebelliously, the mower bit, its rusty blades grated against the knife. Something clanked forcibly, and the machine stopped. Mrs. Dinkman pushed, her back arched with effort. The mower didn't budge. She pulled it back. It whirred gratefully. The clanking stopped, and she tried again. This time it chewed a handful of grass from the edge, found it distasteful, and quit once more. "Anybody know how to make this damn thing work?" Mrs. Dinkman asked exasperatedly. "Needs oil," was helpfully volunteered. She retired into the garage and returned with a lopsided oil can. "Oil it," she commanded regally. The helpful one reluctantly pressed his thumb against the wry bottom of the can, aiming the twisted spout at odd parts of the mower. "I dunno," he commented. "I don't either," said Mrs. Dinkman. "You. Greener, Wiener, whatever your name is." There was no possibility of evasion. "Yes, ma'am. You made this stuff grow. Now you can cut it down." Uncouth guffaws from the watching idiots. "Mrs. Dinkman, Get behind that lawnmower, young man, if you don't want to be involved in a lawsuit." I wasn't afraid of such a consequence in itself, having at the moment nothing to attach. But I thought of Miss Frances and future sales and that impalpable thing known as goodwill. "Yes, ma'am," I repeated. I discarded pump and hose to move reluctantly toward the mower. Under my feet I felt the springiness of the grass. Was it pure fancy, or did it truly differ in quality from the lawns I'd trod so indifferently the day before? I took the handle. If oiling had improved the machine, its previous efficiency must have been slight. It went shakily over the first inch of grass, and then, as it had for Mrs. Dinkman, it stopped for me. By now the spectators had increased to a small crowd, and their dull humor had taken the form of cheerfully offering much gratuitous advice. "Tie into it, Slim! Build up the old muscle! Back her up and take a good run! Go home and do some setting up exercises! Come back next year! Got to put the old back behind it, bud. Give her the gas! Need a decent mower. No use trying to cut stuff like that with an antique. Yeah, get a good mower, one made since the Civil War. No one around here got an honest-to-God lawnmower?" The last query evidently nettled local pride, for soon a blithe, beam-shouldered little man trundled up a shiny, rubber-tired machine. "This'll do the business," he announced confidently as I relinquished the spotlight to him with understandable readiness. "It's a regular Jim Dandy." It certainly was. The devil grass came irreverently above the wheels and flowed with graceful inquisitiveness over the blades, but the brisk little man pushed heartily, and the mechanism revolved with a barely audible clicking. It did not balk, complain, or hesitate. Cleanly severed ends of grass whirled into the air and floated down on the neat, smooth swath left behind. Everyone smiled relievedly at the Jim Dandy's triumph, and my sigh was loudest and most heartfelt. I edged away as unobtrusively as I could. End of Part C.